Okay, so if you want to start again from the top, because I got live streaming and recording as a backup.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. Hi, welcome to the public safety meeting. It is Monday, November 27th, 7:06 p.m. We're going to get started with Officer Medeiros. One of our guests is looking for a parking spot and will be in shortly. I'm Phyllis Nastasio, the chair.
I'm Dwayne Williams, committee member.
Susan Perez, committee member. And that's all that's here from the committee. And we have
Edward Perez, board member.
board member. Thank you for joining us. Officer Medeiros, would you like to start?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Officer Medeiros. I'm the crime prevention officer of the 4-9 precinct. I'm going to try and make this quick since I know you guys have scooter stuff to attend to. I'll start with the raw numbers. In the 28 days, our crime, specifically index crimes, are up 17%. The main drivers of crime right now for the past 28 days have been grand larcenies and grand larcenies of automobiles. For the most consistent category under grand larcenies of automobiles have been Hondas lately. It's Honda CRVs. For grand larcenies, it has been auto-related stuff, whether it be vehicles getting broken into or vehicles having parts stolen. We have a trend of tires and rims getting stolen in Pelham Gardens. That will be specifically the area to the east of Eastchester Road, north of Pelham Parkway North, south of Allerton, and to the west of, I guess that would be Stillwell and Gun Hill Road at the very end. The vehicles getting targeted are Acuras right now, MDXs, RDXs, TLs. Other vehicles that are traditionally targeted are Toyota Highlanders, Toyota Camrys, and I think there was one other. Oh, Honda CRVs. What else? We're having lots of vehicle break-ins in the area. Well, not that particular area, in the precinct. The break-ins, if I remember, most of them have been concentrated on the west side of the precinct in the area of Pelham Parkway, but both north and south of the Parkway on the west side of the precinct. The items getting taken are basically purses, sunglasses, any wallets, electronics, of course. Anything of value is basically getting taken out of vehicles. Give me a second. Sorry about that dry cough. So basically that's the trend for when it comes to grand larcenies. We've also had recently a trend of EBT benefits getting stolen. What people are doing is they're using skimming devices in local supermarkets, maybe delis, places that take EBT benefits, and they are replicating the EBT cards and basically using them to either take the EBT money or to basically buy food with it. And I guess whatever they do with the food is whatever they do with the food. We've had quite a few instances of that of people getting of complaints of that recently. We had actually one walk in today. When it comes to that, the only real defense there would be to check the point of sale devices, the card scanners. Make sure there's nothing weird or attached to it. Rub it, grab it, pull at it. Basically make sure that nothing weird comes off of it. Let's see. Just a quick note. For the year, our biggest driver of crime has actually been burglaries. The row number for that has been 212 this year as compared to 120 last year at this time. That's an increase of 76% year over year. There hasn't really been many patterns when it comes to the burglary. We have had some trends, though, for the past 28 days. The biggest trend have actually been burglaries of commercial vehicles. About half of our complaints have been basically commercial vehicle break-ins, typically contractor vehicles or contractor-like vehicles. For example, let's just say, hypothetically, a work truck from Verizon. That's not really a general contractor vehicle, but it's a type of vehicle that's also been targeted in the past. People are basically breaking in, stealing tools, electronics, whatever it is. And since the vehicle is owned commercially and used commercially, it's considered a burglary. So half of our instances for the past 28 days have been that. I'm going to get off of the CompStat stuff and go to some other information that I have in front of me. As everyone knows, I've been kind of alluding to it or warning about it for a little bit of time now, that there is going to be a manpower crunch here at the NYPD. I think if you guys listen or read to the Post, they recently came out with an announcement, well, not an announcement, but a story that next year, because of budget concerns, they are canceling all 5 classes for next year. And at the same time, they are expecting approximately 3,000 officers to be eligible for retirement next year. Assuming that all of them take the retirement, and most of them probably will, the manpower will fall below 29,000 for uniformed members of service. The reason I bring that up is that it's not just our patrol that is being affected, because right now we are basically answering double the amount of jobs with half the manpower. It's also in particular, for this precinct, our detective squad. The department has a number for each precinct as to be the ideal amount of manpower for any particular unit. The detective squad is no different. For here, the ideal number of investigative officers is anywhere between 20 and 23. Right now, we only have 15. But that 15 is on paper. From 5 of those officers are actually not officers assigned to the 4-9 precinct. They are extras from different units, narcotics, gang squad, things of that nature. Because of their transitory nature, they do not have the ability to take on cases from the 4-9 precinct. They help out and they assist, but they're not really assigned cases because they could be called back to their specialty unit at any time. So we have 5 of them. So we only have 10 detectives at this point assigned to the 4-9 precinct. Out of those 10 detectives, 1 within the next couple of months is retiring. 1 is currently limited, which means that they don't have the ability to go out into the field for whatever reason. And I have another one that is out. I think it just might be out for today. I'm not quite sure. But that basically means that we have 7 detectives as of today. that have the ability to take on new cases. The additional problem for the detective squad is the same problem with patrol. We have half the manpower, double the caseload. So right now, our yearly average for the detective squad as to the number of cases that they must investigate is at 400. That this is total for the year. The average amount of cases that each detective is holding, which basically means each case that's open, currently under investigation, being investigated, is somewhere around 80 to 90 cases for each detective that is able to take on cases. It's to the point where they try not to, but detectives that are on their regular days off are getting assigned cases. It's kind of hard to investigate when you're not working that day. But this is the kind of triage that's happening right now at the 4-9 squad. To give you an example of how the squad works, each squad has teams. Right now, our squad has 3-man teams. We have one team that's in right now. Out of that 3-man team, one of them, I believe, is going to be going to a court tomorrow, and the other one has training. So our 3-man team is now actually a 1-man team, and that's going to be like that today, tomorrow, and the next day. And due to other scheduling issues with the other teams, whether it be on vacation or training or other personal issues, that basically means that while we technically have 7 detectives that are able to take on new cases, technically, there's actually only maybe 1 or 2 inside the squad at any given time. The problem that causes is that if all detectives have to they have to investigate, and they must also make arrests. If any of those detectives make an arrest, they can't be by themselves. We are now running into situations where detectives are in that room by themselves, and at that point, it's not safe to make arrests. If they can't make an arrest, then they can't close out a case. If they can't close out cases, more cases build up, and it basically goes on from there. Excuse me. I'm just bringing that to your attention as to what's going on for our particular detective squad. This is not a unique problem for patrol squads, but as far as I understand right now, the 4-9, in terms of lack of manpower, is the worst in the Bronx. The department is obviously aware of the lack of manpower in the 4-9 squad and has dedicated themselves to finding and assigning new investigators. I'm just wanting basically to bring this to your attention so that everyone understands what's going on with the squad with investigations. If anyone is getting any complaints of not having calls returned or not being able to reach anyone at the squad, because I have heard of complaints like that, this is part of the reason why. So yeah, I'm sure some people might have any questions. I'll try to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions for Officer Maderos? Please raise your hand. Anybody here? Bob?
Yes, Officer Maderos. Isn't
Yep.
it true that the 50th precinct has the lowest number of officers? It was 92 when they went into the NCO program.
I don't know about manpower for other precincts. And even if that was true, they went into the program years ago. So I imagine that they have more officers at this point. Or at least
Because
I hope.
I was on the 50th precinct council at their meetings before I moved here to the 49th. Okay, so that's, why I would dispute that now. So what is the captain or the deputy inspector of the precinct and borough command doing for the precincts here in the Bronx?
For the precincts, I have no idea. That's
49th.
Requests have been made for more manpower, especially for the squad. Like I already stated, our leadership knows of the issue, and from what they've said, they are going to dedicate new investigators to the 49 precinct when they can.
Thank you.
Roxanne?
Yeah, thank you. I have two short questions. Does the officer know the cause of the fire on Holland Avenue that happened on November 17? Because we had different speculations from different people in that building. It was a very big fire.
I don't know. I'm not privy to the investigation of that fire.
Okay.
We don't
All right.
typically investigate fighters.
No, I understand that, but sometimes you do coordinate with other agencies.
Yeah.
But that's why I asked. I know you're not fire department, but asked maybe that information was shared with you. But second question regarding the EBT cards. Yes, I had received complaints from 3 different stores, mainly on Lydic. And I want to ask you, I couldn't hear you too clearly. What was your safety tips on how to avoid this from someone benefits being stolen from their card? What was the tips that you said? I couldn't hear you too well, please.
When it comes to the card readers, it's always the card readers,
Okay.
yeah, those
Okay.
things you that you stick the slide the cards in.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you avoid?
I'm sorry.
Right. So how do you
That
avoid?
is with phone 37. Please mute yourself.
Oh, well, I just was trying to mention,
Yes, but you have to raise your hand.
I'm not on
She's
Zoom.
on the phone. She can't put.
Okay, well, Officer Maderos was answering another question, so please just be patient.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, go ahead. Okay.
I think she had a response to what she was
The
saying. Answer Roxanne's question yet.
basically what we tell people to do is to grab and pull at the POS machine, especially where the card reader is, to make sure that there's no cover on top of it, to make sure there's no skimmer in it. But what's challenging is that some delis have their card readers behind the counter, assuming that the deli themselves are not actually stealing the EBT benefits. It's really the ones that have the card readers up front and accessible to patrons that you have to worry about.
Okay, 37.
No, just to follow up, there's a grocery store I cannot mention that's on Kruger Avenue, and I have an email from someone where he actually asked the young man for his PIN number, and when the young guy went afterwards to make another purchase, he had no money left in his card. So I did a direct attempt to go to your to the 49 precinct And that store on Kruger Avenue has been a trouble spot for many years. So I'll follow up with the community affairs. Thank you.
Okay.
Ma'am, the 37 number, do you have a question for Officer Maderos?
I believe that it's not that easy, that people are getting benefits stolen from other states. So I don't know that that has to do with the local store, that people from another state can somehow get a hold of your card number and your PIN number as well. I don't know that it's necessarily the stores, in the neighborhood stores, all the time.
No, it could definitely happen
So,
in supermarkets as well. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure it's happening in small supermarkets as well.
but are you saying that it's are you saying that it's a store that they
It's in stores that take EBT cards. Yes, that's
but you're
where the
saying that
information is getting stolen.
the store is responsible? Is that what you're saying?
They're not responsible. I'm just saying that that's where it's happening.
But
It
it's
seems
not
just
the
be aware
employee.
of
It's
your
not the
surroundings.
employees. I just would like to clarify. It's not the employees. Is that correct? It's not the establishment.
I would hope not, but
Okay.
I can't guarantee that.
Right.
Does anyone else
So are
have-
you safer in a supermarket? Would that be safer?
Supermarket's probably more likely to happen.
More likely to happen in a supermarket? So it's not the all right. It sounds like it's a bit of a mystery.
Sorry, may I just
Anyone else
clarify?
have any questions?
Yeah,
Roxanne, you have another question?
Just one quick comment. What's happening, because someone's forwarded me the EBT statement and it showed charges from different states. And when I looked into it, what's happening is when you make a charge on your card, whether it's a ATM or EBT card, it shows the headquarters for that company, Target. So that's why it looks like the purchase will be done out of state, but actually it's being done locally. So just to clarify the previous speaker, that's why it looks like it's out of state, but it's actually local stores, but the charges shows the headquarters for those like Target, Walmart. And so that's why it shows different states, but it's actually being charged in local areas. Sorry.
Thank you, Roxanne. Does anyone else have any questions for Officer Maderos? Okay. Thank you, Officer Maderos. And if anyone does want to discuss anything with Officer Maderos, the 49th Precinct meeting is tomorrow night at Kings Harbor on Gun Hill Road and Stillwell at 7 o'clock. Ephraim, did you have a question?
Yes. Is there a follow-up to any complaints that arise from EBT, and would that incur the federal government sending somebody to take a look at that? If it is theft of EBT cards, that is money that is allocated by the feds, and I'm just wondering if there is a coordination with the 49th Precinct, and does anybody go to inspect the places where issues may arise if they get multiple issues, multiple complaints? Roxanne brought up a very interesting point there about Kruger, a store on Kruger. So that's all I wanted to know.
When it comes to the feds, they do not take singular complaints. What they will do is take charge of rings. If there's if there's like a whole group of people doing it all at the same time, they'll take that. They don't take single complaints. So what ends up happening is that the NYPD has to investigate it first. If we can put together that this is a group of people doing it in organized crime fashion, then we can refer that to the U.S. District Attorney's Office, and then in conjunction with them, they will eventually take over the case investigations. As for the as for specific stores where this is happening, I'm not aware of specific stores. I've actually been trying to piece that together myself. So if there is actually a store somewhere on Kruger Avenue that is known, I would definitely like to know what store that is so I can visit it. Because it could be that the store doesn't realize that their customers are getting ripped off. So if I can go there and have them make them aware of the issue and tell them what they can do in terms of their procedures in order to make sure that their POS devices are not being used by skimmers, then I'd like to do that.
Just one more question. So in the event that there is something, they can contact you at the precinct if somebody is a victim of that, and you'll investigate?
Yeah, if I'm able to know where the stores are being hit for this type of scam, I'll go visit the stores.
I'm so sorry. I have so many emails with people telling me 3 different stores, one already done by 3 different people. And they told me they went to 49 precincts. I'm so surprised by your response that you don't know which stores. Because they told me they went to 49 precinct so they could make the claim to have their benefits restored.
The problem is I don't investigate those, and that information is not necessarily put onto the complaint. So it's easy for that type of information to be told word of mouth instead of put on paper. And I end up being in a position to miss it completely. So it may very well be that someone in the precinct knows it, but I don't.
You're saying the 49 precinct doesn't put these things on paper?
Sometimes the locations are not put on paper now. It depends on who is writing the complaint at the time.
Okay, thank you for clarification. I'll send an email to
Roxanne,
Community
any
Affairs.
more questions? You can come tomorrow night to the meeting and ask the deputy inspector.
No, I'll send them the stores to the Community Affairs Detective Hall. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and also, there's a website with a phone number to report fraud.
So the Department of Social Services, Human Resource Administration, they have a fraud department. So if you think that your card has been cloned or your benefits are being stolen, you could call the HRA fraud unit at 718-557-1399. Once again, that's 718-557-1399. And then if you need to get a new EBT card or change your PIN, you could call the EBT helpline. That's 888-328-6399. 888-328-6399.
I thank you for that, but that's online. I share that for people who make claims, but I tell people to still file a 49 precinct report to avoid it from happening to someone else, because we can know which stores are. So that thing that he just read off, that's online to make a claim. And sometimes it could take 30 days for people to have their benefits restored. And some people actually lost their benefits during Thanksgiving, which was pretty sad. So I understand what he read off online, but we're discussing how to target to prevent this from happening, because people who are on food stamps usually are in need. So thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. Okay, thank you, Tyrone, for joining us. And like I said, we will be at the 49th Precinct Council meeting tomorrow night at Kings Harbor on Gun Hill Road and Stillwell Avenue. Thank you, Officer Mazeros. Now with us, we have our guest from VO Scooters. She's been waiting patiently. So we're gonna let her begin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katerina Jolino. I am the Community Engagement Specialist for VO. which is one of the 3 scooter operators that operates in the East Bronx. So with our borders being majority between, give me a second, being between anything past the Bronx Park East, we're basically operating in those areas. We just recently have been able to expand to Queens, so we'll be expanding to Queens come April. In the meantime, I'll be sharing a brief presentation just to give you a better idea, Kevin, to answer your question. Kay, I don't understand why you don't want those 2-wheel nuisances, and I'll get you to change your mind in a second. So give me a second. Once I get this to upload. Or in the meantime, I can just go through that. Why is not operating? Well, in the meantime, I can just I can very briefly go through.
Who is that?
Hi.
Well, good night. Sorry to disturb you guys.
They're having a meeting. We're in a meeting, sorry. I'm sorry, a little confusion here in the office. Just give us a minute. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay. So, let's go with this. All right, great. So I am going to briefly go through this presentation. If you have any questions, please, and I can look at the chat, but I'd rather you speak so I can answer. Very briefly, we're a 6-year-old company going on 7, and we probably don't know us as much as you know Bird and Lime. That's for good reasons, because we realized that if we became good partners with the cities that we operate in, then they actually like us, as opposed to other companies that you've mentioned in this chat that have pulled out. At the end of the day, again, I'm in this office for a reason, not online, because at the end of the day, I want you to know that there's a face to this company, and you can reach out. I'll give you my personal information to contact me as well. As a result, we operate all locally. I'm born and raised in Queens. The majority of people who work in the Bronx are from the Bronx. You bet you that during our Queens expansion, the majority of people who will be working in Queens will be from Queens, I myself. I can give you a number of anywhere between 60 to 200 people we've hired locally just for the Bronx and New Rochelle alone. So we're only be growing that number up more. If you have anyone who wants a job, please, we're always hiring. For the libraries alone, here's your stats, Kevin. So far, in the 2-year program, it's became a pilot, and now it's a full-time program. We've had 1 million rides and over 40,000 riders. So that's 40,000 Bronxites who come around and they go on our scooters and they say, hey, well, it's actually worked out, and it's actually made over 1 million rides through the Bronx streets or in the area that we operate in. Very briefly, you have to be 18 years and older, and you have to obey by New York City laws, but also our own regulations. Our own regulations are a bit more strict, are a bit stricter than New York's regulations. So we don't allow we require you to, again, be 18 years old, to go through a checklist, an educational checklist that tells you not to dump these scooters in the Bronx River, for example, not to not to ride under the influence of any drugs or alcohol, to please do a safety checkup when it comes down to possibly pressing a helmet. I go around giving out helmets for free because we want people to be safe when they're riding these scooters, and to always operate within the standard of right of way. So when we're going down to who qualifies, there are 2 kinds of models. There's the every day when you walk up to a scooter and you see it, you can pay $1 to unlock it, and you pay 39 cents a minute. Or if you qualify for EBT, if you qualify for any city, state, or federal assistance programs, for $5 a month, you can waive the unlock fees and you get a free 30-minute ride a day. So oftentimes I hear people saying, I would never have been able to afford the train, let alone Ubering anywhere. They $5 a month, it gets them on that 30-minute ride. They go from point A to point B for work and they get back. So they're able to, again, basically have their commuting costs. And this is just more information on the VO Access program. These stats are for New York City alone. So we've had 55,000 rides over out of that million, and about 3,000 people qualify for the Access program, and plenty more qualify for it, but they don't know about it. So if you know, maybe you yourself, I'm going to at Kay. Kay doesn't think that she thinks these nuisances are annoying. I get it, but if you know someone who actually wants it and can use it and qualifies for it, please let them know. Because at the end of the day, we're going out, we're trying to let people know this is something that it's for us. We're trying to do the right thing. This is something that they should know they have the ability to access. Moving on. Oh, right. So here in our recent user survey for the Bronx, 51% of all riders have said that it made their travel and commuting more affordable than if they were to rely on the MTA alone. If they were to rely on even just walking, we put into calculations their walking versus their hourly wage, and we've made these calculations to see that over 50% of our users can find it more affordable. On the safety aspect, I'm with you. I want these things to be as safe as possible. So we go around doing safety demonstration events. Someone here on this call, I met her through the Bronx Farmers Market in the Bronx Park East. So we go out and we teach people how to ride these things, how to be safe about it. And again, oftentimes what I hear is, oh, I never felt safe on these things, but now that I know how to ride it, I feel much safer, or at the very least, I know what the rules are. Again, we don't allow sidewalk riding. Oftentimes you'll find me yelling on the streets, stop riding on the sidewalk. We want them to follow the laws and follow our own rules too. And this is, again, speaking what I was saying before, it's education mode. We just tell people this is their first 3 rides are a education kind of thing. So this way you get more used to riding the speed. So the first 3 rides will be at 8 miles per hour. Once you graduate, quote unquote, this education mode, you'll be put on the regular 15 miles an hour. That's how fast they go, 15, 15. So you can choose to go anywhere between 8 and 15 miles an hour. And again, also you can't ride at night. And it just, again, it's trying to get people into the aspect of how to ride scooters and how to be safe about it. More importantly, VO is set apart from other scooter providers in the Bronx. We have this thing called VO Voice, which is available in English, Spanish, and 6 other languages, according to the New York City laws. It's different than if you're on a scooter and you enter a geofence, which I'll explain later on. It tells you you're entering, a no ride zone, please leave. Or vice versa, it doesn't make a beep that's very annoying to all of us that live in the area. It tells you, do not enter here, this is not allowed. So for example, let's say CB11 tells the city they don't want these scooters on a certain street. We will abide by that because at the end of the day, we want to be your partners. So we will geofence that street, and this voice will come up and say, you're not allowed to be here. Pretty good. Through these quickly. And for parking, this is probably the most pressing issue. For parking, we have set jurisdictions about where you can park. It has to be out of the right of way and outside of the pedestrian flow of traffic, and also within the furniture zone of the sidewalk. That means anything that's not the first square. Imagine the sidewalk has 2 squares, not in the first square, which is where the pedestrians flow of traffic is, in the second square, where you'll find trash, unfortunately, where you'll find bus stops, where you'll find any trees. That's the furniture part of the sidewalk. And then you'll see these around the Bronx sometimes. They're designated parking corrals. This was done in conjunction with the DOT. The DOT has decided that these are highly trafficked areas, and that's why we need to have these parking corrals. You'll find one by Bronx Park East, right next to the zoo, because people do scoot from here to there, and often they scoot from other places. It'll be kind of hard to tell someone, quote unquote, who is a tourist coming to the Bronx to go to the Bronx Zoo to walk from the train to the Bronx Zoo. Oftentimes they get on the scooter and they go there and they park it outside, and that's an extra tourism dollar coming to the Bronx Zoo, for example, as well as patroning any kind of stores in this area. Compliance, yet again, we make sure that everyone is compliant within their actual ride. If they're not compliant, we do not let them park and end, in which case it's financially incentivized for them to be compliant. So that means if they're not in the furniture zone of the sidewalk, as the photo shows, and they're right here instead, then we cannot let them park, and they'll receive this violation where after a few violations, I think it's 2, we suspend their account, and then they have to get back to us as to why they were not compliant. This just tells you more about the parking. We do education for that reason. These are the 2 scooters you may have seen around. We're different than other scooter companies. We're the ones that offer the sit-down scooters. And again, there's no pedals. So oftentimes I work with people with mobility issues, people who are over the age of 50. I work with the AARP, and they're trying to get people who are, mobility not as I guess like adept, and they're trying to get them to get on these scooters because it actually presents a great viable solution to get around, as opposed to walking or taking the bus and waiting half an hour for the bus to arrive. And this is the scooter which you've seen around. Let me skip those. Also, these are swappable batteries. So all the batteries we can swap out between each other. We charge them all in our warehouse. We have 2 warehouses in the Bronx, again, all locally staffed. And we are making ourselves here to stay for that very reason. So no battery charging is happening in other people's houses, as what's happening with other companies that I shall not be naming. But for us, we charge all our batteries. All of our lab batteries are UL certified, and they're in our warehouse. And we haven't had an issue yet, so knock on wood, that's great. And that's the community engagement part. Here's where I come in. Again, at the end of the day, I want you to report if you see a scooter out of the way, because I get tipped off. I make sure that my team and I goes out and cleans it up and make sure that you can use the sidewalk. But more importantly, you know that if you have an issue, here I am, you can contact me. Please don't be afraid to make your, opinions well known. That's what, all New Yorkers are good and well fought for. And that's it. I'll leave up these 2 numbers. The top one is for customer support. So again, if you do happen to have any issues, whether it comes down to seeing a scooter on the sidewalk that's tipped off or anything of that nature, I can also send this to you so you don't have to. Yeah. So if there's anything that's going on, I visit several senior centers, senior citizen centers, and I do the same exact thing. I show them, actually you'll see in this photo right here, there's a wheelchair device, and Judy on this phone call, I've worked with her and other people across the Bronx and across Queens now to get people who have a wheelchair. We do a free wheelchair adapter. So if you have a wheelchair and it's not motorized, it's a regular hand, powered wheelchair, we come to your house. It's all for free. We attach a motorized scooter to the front of it, and then you can use it for free. And then we just come collect it when the battery runs out. So these are services that we're trying to make sure people know about, and anyone who sees, okay, it's this. Wait, do you see my mouse?
It's on the screen, Kay.
Right there. So that's like one type of scooter attachment that we come out and attach for people. Right where it says thank you on the bottom, there's a chair. Or you know what, I can do this, make it even easier. They can't see this. VioRide.com Bronx. You can request one in this. I'll stop sharing for now, but how do I put this in the chat? There you go. And then you can request one at that link right there.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask the first
Yeah,
question.
go for it.
This was laying on Bronxdale Avenue for almost 2 weeks.
Mhm.
I believe it's still there.
Jeez.
There's an issue with them being left all over the place. So that's the main problem we have with them.
Of course.
If someone leaves one in front of my house and someone trips on it, I'm gonna get sued. So how do we prevent that? Because they're being left on people's property.
Call the customer number and like as many times. You should only call
They
once.
have been called.
Mhm.
When this program first started, we were told that they would be picking up the
So
scooters every night.
with
Then it
that,
went to 48 hours.
Mhm.
And now it seems like they're not getting picked up at all.
With that, we are we definitely, I mean, same thing with like the police officer. We are going through a staff shortage, which is also why we're trying to hire a lot more. But more importantly, it often is like vandalism on one side, and I'll send you a video if you want to send her one of like a man going around picking up scooters and tossing them to the
Oh, I
side
believe it.
on purpose.
Yeah.
So oftentimes it's 2 things. For that, I wonder if if the battery dies fully, we cannot see it on the map. So we go to where it gets pinged. It's like a map, which I showed before. I should have kept this on, but it's too late now. A map shows there is a scooter that's been there for 2 or 3 days, and the battery still is operating. We can go see it, and we'll say, let's replace it because it's clearly not no one's been using it, or it's in the middle of nowhere. Or B, more importantly, the battery will die, so we don't want that to happen. If the battery's fully dead, it falls off our map, unfortunately. So that's when the calling comes in handy.
So
We do
let's say we
want-
do call you.
Yeah.
Before you're able to come and get it, someone does trip and fall on my property.
If you call, then we will be there probably within 2 to 3 hours is the operating distance that we give ourselves internally.
Okay.
The New York City gives us 24 to 48 hours. We internally try to, we have like at least 8 people, and then between 8 people, we have, let's say, 4 shifts. So we'll have 32 people at any given point during the day being able to retrieve it. Those 8 people at some point or another will be able to retrieve the scooter.
Okay. Does anyone here have any questions? Ed?
So liability wise, who's responsible for somebody tripping over a scooter that they left in front of them?
Has not happened yet. I do not know the answer to that question. I know in our city
I know
contract.
we are. If they trip on a scooter that's left on my property,
Right.
I get sued.
Well, then the question is like, I wonder where is it, like in your property line or is it on the sidewalk? I don't know.
Well, we're
the specifics.
responsible for everything.
Past the property
It's
line.
Into the street.
That's the issue of where was it placed, and then we go back and to see like was the end ride photo. So the photo that I issued before, like
Mhm.
where you had to close the ride, if that was parked properly. If it wasn't parked properly, the user is liable. Because at the end of the day, they were not following the user agreement. In our contract, the city's not liable, we're not liable, and it's called like the will of God or God, I forgot the meaning of those that
Mhm.
clause. It's that clause. So like you will not be held liable if it's someone else, for example, that is on purpose or just negligently left a scooter on the ground.
Now, is there a way for someone to request, let's say, your geofencing to leave out, like, let's say a particular block or street
Mhm.
for parking and starting and stopping rides?
Yeah, so that's happened. For example, someone referenced the Bronx River. We geofenced away from the Bronx River because we're vandalism wise, people have been throwing the scooters into the river. We don't want that. So we geofenced away from the river. And we've heard complaints from the local council member's office, from Councilman Brown. But at the end of the day, we've told them this is our rationale, it's our reasoning. We don't want these things to pollute the river, for example. We don't want to go out and cause strain on the city's resources. So we've geofenced this away. And so far, so good. We haven't seen as many. We still see someone like vandalize. This one person that we are trying to work with the police department to try to catch. Other than that, we geofence. So if you have an issue, bring it to either the attention of us, our customer service email, or bring it to the attention of the local council member of whoever it is, and they can escalate it, and we will find out through the DOT, and we'll work with the DOT.
Now,
Oftentimes, we have to get permission from the DOT to do something. That's
now I will say that,
Yeah.
I did call 311 one time and I reported because it was, I think it was like 2 or 3 of the Vito scooters there.
Mhm.
And then somebody had left one laying against my garage door. So I was like, man, I'm not gonna have this. So I called submitted the request on 311, but then I also emailed Vio, and I haven't seen another Vio scooter parked there. So, I just wanted to kind of put that out. I felt like they did do something about it when I went via 311, and then also to Vio's customer service. So I will say that in defense of Vio on that one.
When you, when you send the email, it works both ways. If you are a property owner and you do not want these things, we try our best to accommodate. Oftentimes we can't, like, let's say I'm your neighbor, I use it every day. You can't stop me from parking it nearby. However, at the same time, it works both ways. Like, you don't want the scooter nearby, we'll try our best to avoid it. If I'm the neighbor and I want this at 7 a.m. when I'm riding to the train, we try to accommodate that too. You send us an email saying, hey, I ride to the train every day, I need this by here. We try our best to accommodate those things as well. Again, that's the whole point of listening to the community.
Can we add more corrals? Like on Allison Avenue, we should have some.
We're trying to, it's a DOT. It's where the
Okay.
DOT tells us they've made a certain amount. We prefer corrals often, because it just keeps things tidy and neat. We don't really like to have them all around, but it's the DOT when they say, here's where we want the hub, here's where we don't want a corral, here's XYZ. And the same thing with the geofence.
Susan, you have a question?
You answered the question because I'm a property owner also, and when I come to
it's-
my driveway,
It's nerve-wracking.
it's
yeah.
either in my driveway and I can't go up, or it's leaning against my house. So what I'm gonna do now is I took the email, took a picture of it, and so what I go to is I move it and I bring it over to the pole. So it's not in front of my house and no one trips on it. But that's a great question.
Yeah.
If they do trip on it, we're gonna find that answer out.
Here's what I was talking about with the photo. So this is like a properly parked scooter. If it's not parked properly,
It's leaning on my fence.
then the user's at fault. Most of the time, the AI will catch that and it will say you're not allowed to park. So it will financially disincentivize them from parking improperly. Like they will be paying per minute to keep it unlocked or to keep it poorly parked, for example.
I have to say though, there's
Yeah.
very few that are actually parked like that around here. I don't know if you.
Some put them in front of my house that way,
Yeah.
but most of the time I find them leaning against my
Yeah.
fence. So then I move it and I bring it along the pole,
Yeah.
but then it sits right, so I don't need the pole anymore.
It's like my aspect of it. It's like I'm doing the education campaign, trying to tell people like, listen, this is how you do it properly. This is why you could do these things. Please don't vandalize these things, for example. So it's often that kind of aspect of it.
What's the age to get onto this?
18 years at the minimum. Oftentimes, like I think the average for I want to say for the Bronx, but I want to say for overall is about 27 to 35. And then in ARP, I was referencing them. I'm working with them in Wisconsin. The age there, the absolute like average is 67 years old, which is fantastic.
Wow.
Because we have 90-year-olds riding on, especially in the seated scooters, because they feel more comfortable. So there's a lower center of gravity than the
I'm
steps.
dying to try one and I'm scared.
There's one outside. I'll bring you.
No,
outside.
it's okay. Especially in the
I have a
dark.
question. How do you handle a case where a scooter is in battery failure mode and
So, yeah.
falls off your map?
So we try to catch this as quickly as possible, but oftentimes than not, I mean, there are some exceptions. We will see, we pass by when we're doing some other kind of, let's say, we do battery swapping, or we get pinged at the last known location. So for that specific Cosmo, that could have been someone that dropped it and like rolled it over from here, so we couldn't find it.
Mhm.
Or oftentimes people try to steal these things, and then it leads us to someone's garage or someone's backyard. So we only get the last known location. And that's when we try to door knock and say, why'd you steal this thing? It's basically a useless two-wheel device because it locks automatically. So we try to prevent that kind of thing from happening in the first place.
Okay, and just to follow up, how
Yeah.
frequently then do they go through that exercise of trying to locate?
Every day. So like our map refreshes every hour. I'm on it every day, but every day at the end of the day, they go through a list and they say, this is the last known, this is the last percentage of the battery. So these lower than 50% will be the priority for tomorrow.
Thank you. Any board members have a question? Let me see, Cynthia. Cynthia, you're the only board member on there. Do you have any questions?
I actually did. Hi, thank you. I'm curious what mechanism is in place, or are we looking to have in place, and I'm talking about the company, to be able to locate these if the battery is dead? Because if the battery is dead, then basically, I mean, does the person reporting it then have to give you a specific address and longitude and latitude in order to locate it, or what other options are there?
So Dwayne asked that question, and briefly, we have the last known location. Often, like this is a very very small, less than 1% of the batteries do ever end up going like that. It's often due to vandalism. So if you look at the scooters, where the battery, or where honestly it's the IoT is located, people who want to vandalize them have realized that they hit it a certain way. If they really do vandalize it, that's when the last ping goes off. So we're able to stop that from happening by having a structured device. I should have said before I go into this, we design all of our scooters in-house as opposed to the other two scooter providers. So as a result, the other two scooter providers will have people who vandalize and cut the brakes off, which is quite dangerous. We realize that's an issue, and we've built a hard surrounding around the brakes to prevent that from happening. So we're always workshopping to make sure that doesn't happen. And so far, our newest models, which you'll see in the street, that hasn't happened that often as a result of that. So we're always workshopping that. To that same extent, oftentimes it shuts off and people have to physically move it. So for example, in your case, it could have been someone moved it from one location to the next location, and we went to the first location, then we couldn't find it. So that's why I always say, please report. And to answer your second part, yes, please report it to us, report to the DOT if you want. It doesn't matter, we will go out there, but always send the location of where it is, because it could be that situation where someone moved it, or someone was trying to vandalize it for some reason and gave up, or someone tried to steal it and they left it outside their house. Any kind of number of scenarios we've all come in contact with.
Thank you, and my apologies for repeating the question.
No, not at all. Thank you.
Hi, Judy, I see your hands up, but I have to go to Kevin first because he registered to speak online.
I'm sorry,
So
I
I'll
think
get
that's
to
an
you
old
once-
question. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
And I don't need to ask that question. I mean, the chat and the conversation is great. So thank you. Okay.
That's it, Kevin?
Yeah, I got chats working and Katrina did a great job. So I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Anybody else online have a question for Diana?
Yes, hi. So I'm a frequent shared scooter rider. I don't usually ride the VO sit down. I prefer the stand up. And I'm short and the handlebars are very wide, which makes it feel weird when I'm steering.
Okay.
So I wanted to know if you take a scooter out of the geofenced area, does it then disappear from you?
No. So we always have it first. Fascinating. I want to get your number and we'll do a little demo because I'm always going to look out for users of any demographic. So I would love this. And answer is no. And I'll show you an example of it. For example, someone put a scooter on the back of a truck and it ended up on Staten Island last week. So my team had to go door knock on Staten Island. We know where it was because the battery's still in operation. And even when the battery did die, we could still see it pinging because the IoT was in effect. So when the battery did die, we could still get it on the newer scooters. He stole it and we went to his house and we said, hey man, like, why'd you steal it? And he gave it to us because he knew it basically the IoT, as long as it remains intact, makes it a piece of junk. Ironically, I don't want to say that. Don't let my employer know that I said that, but it really is because it locks the wheels, it locks the brakes, it locks everything. So once you get past the geofence, it doesn't work at all.
Okay. And then I had a question about parking and why it is that if it's not a corral, you're supposed to park in the furniture zone. Because what happens a lot is that parking in the furniture zone means parking right in front of someone's car door. And it just feels to me like that's not a great place to park because they're going to come back to their car and try to get in and they're going to get pissed that there's a scooter in the way. And it would be much better to park it against a fence, against a building wall on the other side of the sidewalk. So I don't understand why you made the single scooter parking in the furniture zone.
This is a DOT rule. However, the logic behind it is the same logic before. If you lean it up against a storefront, then the storefront owner will feel liable for the scooter. And more importantly, the flow of traffic overwhelmingly in most streets in New York are on the side that's closest or the square that's closest to the wall or the closest to the establishment. And that's why we don't want them to block the flow of traffic. The furniture zone, because it has, trash piled up, because it has bus poles, bus shelters, it has benches, it has trees, overwhelmingly it is blocked. So that's the furniture zone. And all streets in New York, if we want to get into it, the majority of the streets have, like, let's say the DOT minimum is 64 square feet per person to operate according to a DOT minimum of free public space. The sidewalks in our city account for majority of that space, unfortunately. You guys are lucky. You have the Bronx Park right here, or I'm in Queens. I got to walk a mile to my nearest park. So for that reason alone, they count the furniture sidewalk space as public space that's able to be operated and where the scooter can be parked.
Okay. And then in terms of users and etiquette, and it seems like a lot of people don't know basic like cycling and biking etiquette, which is that if you're coming up behind somebody, you're supposed to call out or ring your bell or say where you are. And I think it would be great if you could make that more of a feature of the little instruction quiz that you have to pass. And also maybe not as much for the VO, but I don't think a lot of people know how to use the kickstands. It's a little hard to use a lot of them. And again, if people could be instructed more on the kickstands, or if they could even have easier to use kickstands, because some of them you have to pull them thing back and it's heavy and it takes a little bit of effort to put the kickstand down and then pull it back so that the kickstand is in the right place. Because I think that leads to a lot of ones that are tipped over, fallen over, because people get frustrated. They can't make the kickstand work, or it's too heavy for them, or it just doesn't seem to balance right. So they just leave it on the ground. That's
No,
my constructive criticism for you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you. I completely agree. I am a cyclist. We don't have VOs or scooters in general in Queens yet. So I ride everywhere. I feel like that's the majority of where my education does go. It's knowing the rules of the road. I hate it when I'm walking down the street and someone's riding their bike on the sidewalk. Vice versa. A lot of it is like saying on your left or making like the hand signs when you are turning. So that's the majority of where I focus my education as well. It's just knowing the actual rules and knowing proper etiquette. On the kickstand part, to answer that, we built, again, because we build it all ourselves in-house, we built them to be extra sturdy to avoid, ironically, it falling over. So when you push it, when you put it into a lab, when you put it into like a wind lab, it doesn't fall over up to like 20 miles an hour, I think was the winds that it blew. But to your point, I will let people know that because people get frustrated and they probably don't want to put the kickstand up.
Now, I do have to say, around here especially, you see most of these scooters on the sidewalk. And I think that's an issue, especially for the elderly. They're frightened. They don't want to get hit by a scooter.
Like there are people who are riding them on the sidewalk.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we see them more on the sidewalk than we do in the street.
So if that's the like, again, can't say it enough, please report it, because if you report the 311, we can find out, and you report the date and the time, like the time, date, and the location. We suspend that user immediately.
Okay.
So oftentimes, unfortunately, what we've seen is like parents unlocking the scooters for teenagers, and we suspend the parents' account, but only after we find out that happens. Like oftentimes, I see someone. Each scooter has a number on it. So you say, I saw this number at this time. And then we can say, oh, user XYZ, we suspend your account, and it's completely like zero tolerance. We do not allow them again because they've clearly, it's like one of those big no rules. Do not break that. Do not do that. So please call 311 or please call us. We take it very seriously.
Okay. Roxanne?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just like to clarify, because I know how it is when this board makes too many false allegations. This man that you refer to, he's not tossing the e-scooters, by the way. And the video that you're referring to was posted on Friends of Pelham Parkway that was sent to me by one of the residents. You can see it clear in the video that he's removing all the e-scooters off the middle of the sidewalk, and he puts them on the side of the adjacent to the curb. Yes, he does sometimes put it upside down, but actually there were many comments where people were actually thanking him for his effort, because too many people, seniors and those with certain different abilities, cannot walk safely through the sidewalk because they have to navigate against all the e-scooters left in the middle of the sidewalk. Some of them laying down, some are standing up, but nonetheless, it's an impediment for those who have different abilities and cannot navigate as I thankfully can. But as I get older, which unfortunately I am, I won't be able to navigate as easily as I do now. And the main problem is that they are being ridden on the sidewalk. And I know people on this phone call who ride it on the sidewalk. It's very disrespectful to ride it on the sidewalk and endanger. If you want to endanger yourself, that's your choice. But to endanger other living beings, other residents, people's pets, it's not right. You should not be on the sidewalk. And secondly, please, and I thank you for the invitation to report it, but as I used to send emails to DOT, and they said the same thing to me, I said, cannot spend my whole life. There's so many e-scooters all over Pelham Parkway, on the Greenway, outside the Greenway, on Pelham Parkway houses. I would spend at least 5 hours a day reporting these things laying on the ground, on the curb, on the crosswalk, and being ridden on the sidewalk. And even if as I see the e-scooters passing by me, what am I going to do? Chase them down and try to get the little number that's that's inscribed on the side of the scooter? That's impossible. I mean, can you clarify how will I be able to get the e-scooter number if the person is riding it on the sidewalk and scooting past by me? I'm not supposed to really. I don't have the ability. I can't run anymore. I run after them, chase them down, hold them back, and get the number off the e-scooter. Can you please clarify that, please? Thank you.
One, the DOT has allowed us to give people the access to ride on Pelham Parkway, so that is allowed. And technically, it's
not on the sidewalk though. Not on the sidewalk.
It's a bike lane, like if they were on the bike lane part, that's allowed. If they were on the
No, no, no.
sidewalk.
I'm talking about the sidewalks. Sidewalk.
lane.
Pelham Parkway. It's not.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, it's one path
That's
that's
what I was
shared by
thinking.
pedestrians
Yeah,
and bikes.
so that's allowed.
See, now we were told no motorized vehicles are allowed up
No
there.
motorized vehicles, technically this is a scooter, and it's a regulated rideshare scooter. So it's electric and it's not like a moped or unregulated scooters like that. So that's why I want to get into the, I want to get into the, that's like also, like this is the education campaign I go into. Like people yell at me about, mopeds or motorized bikes in the city, and we're not that company because they're unregulated people who use those kind of bikes. This is regulated, and to that point, you can report it because it says this number and this number. I can't report that person who is going 40 miles an hour because they're not regulated on speeds. We have to be regulated at 50 miles an hour or any other things like that. They can just buy a personal vehicle for $1,000 and go whatever which way, and you can't report them because
I'm so sorry. I'm talking about the share program that could go up to 25 miles per hour when it's downslope. I'm not talking about private only. I'm talking about your company where they're riding on sidewalks on Lydic Avenue, which is also Pelham Parkway, on Pelham Parkway North, which is also Pelham Park Community. They're on sidewalks and they're left in the middle of the sidewalk. And if I see them riding on the sidewalk, some of them many underage, some of the double team on one e-scooter that's owned by your company, how can I
Right.
report? Am I supposed to chase them down and get the number when the number is so tiny? How can I get the number? I'm trying to ask you for information, for help.
Got it. Well, first, it's 15 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour, not 25. And two, if you can't get the number, just call us and say, I saw a scooter at this date, at this time, at this location. We can pin them down. Because if they were breaking any kind of rule, we want to not have that happen anymore. We want to stop them. If it's double riding, if it's teenagers, if it's sidewalk running, anything like that, we want to stop it from happening ever again. And it's, again, zero tolerance. So even if you can't if you get the number, that's great. If you can't get the number, just let us know the time, date, and location.
I appreciate it, but again, what can we do with all the e-scooters left standing? And please don't blame this man because that's unfair. He's not tossing these e-scooters. I have the video posted. People can see it. It's wrong to make false accusations against someone. I know how that feels.
I'm not making a false accusation. You can speak to Officer Maderas if you would like to. The police department is actively looking for him. It's a criminal act that he's picking them up. Maybe we're talking about two different people, but the video that the police department has shared with me and the DOT, it's a man picking them up and tossing them in the middle of the street, at cars, at people. And he's
I haven't seen the video. I have him. He's actually collecting them from the middle of the sidewalk and he's putting it into the curb.
Two different
Right.
people.
That's what I'm thinking.
Maybe it's two different people.
Okay, all right, then I apologize for that because that man is not. He has his issues, but he's not a danger or a problem for anyone. Okay, so again, there's the e-scooters left laying on the sidewalk or left standing on the sidewalk. They're left there for days. And I think it's burdensome to expect people like myself who didn't really have much of an input on this e-pilot program that was just put over here saying in the guise of equity, in the guise of transit desert, which is not the case of Pelham Parkway. We were forced, this was forced onto us, and now they're telling us, well, if you have an issue with that, you call us, you get the license plate, if you could chase them down, you can't chase them down, tell us the time, location. I cannot devote my whole life because it happens not just once a day, it happens at least 5 times, 6 times a day. I mean, imagine times that by 365 a year. That's really burdensome to put on a person like myself. Any person can be in Pelham Parkway that's already burdened with all the issues we have to deal with that the city puts while consulting with us. I'm sorry, but this is very frustrating. But thank you for your time.
No worries. And just to again address that, I'm not asking you to spend most of your time, but most of the time, if there's a scooter on your block, it's because someone on your block either had to use it or got there to that same point. So that's why we keep it there, because someone kept there. We don't keep the same scooter on there for weeks. We try not to. But for the most part, if it's there, someone had to use it either to get there or to leave from there. And B, like you don't see the same thing about cars. There's a car on my block that has not moved since April. And then
we complain about them.
Exactly. So like that's just keep it in perspective here. Like one scooter that's left. That's what I try to do. She left.
Yes, but the thing is,
in the sidewalk,
it's not. That car is parked in the street.
I completely
If someone
get it.
trips
Yeah.
over that car, they're not going to sue me.
Totally get it.
So that's the difference.
And again, like you will not be held liable for it because in the user agreement, we will make sure that they did it properly. If they did it properly, we find out the vandalism part of it. Like that's
Diana, did you have another question?
I haven't spoken yet. Can I speak?
Yes,
Sure.
I know, Bob, but Diana had her hand up before you.
She's already spoken.
Robert, you can go ahead of me.
Your hand was up first. I mean, we're still gonna get time to speak.
Go ahead, Bob. Thank you, Diana. Go ahead, Bob.
Quick question. You said that the police department polices the e-scooters, correct?
No.
Because
The-
it is not the police department, it's the Department of Transportation.
That's
That's
she
what I
didn't
said.
say the police department. She said DOT.
Yeah, and I don't see DOT agents out there policing these e-scooters. That's all I want to say.
The DOT doesn't have agents to police these scooters. In what respect, sir?
They have traffic agents, that give out traffic tickets, DOT.
NYPD. NYPD. Traffic agents are no longer under DOT. They're under
Well, then
NYPD.
okay, as I stated, there's nobody to police these e-scooters then. And that's why they're running wild. Thank you.
Well, once again, we try our best to make sure that no one's breaking the rules. That's why my job is to do the education part of it. Like anyone who does want to ride it, they have to know they have to respect the rules of the road. So no sidewalk running, no drunk driving. Same thing as you would when you're driving. And that's like where I'm coming to trouble. Trying to also say if you do see something, report it. Same thing how you would or a crime. It's the exact same thing. It is a crime to ride on the sidewalk. It is a crime to double ride. It is a crime to ride with two people or to ride with someone underage. So it's the same aspect. You report a crime. Like the police don't go around walking down the street. You report the crime and the police show up. So same kind of thing there.
Thank you. Diana?
Yes, so full confession, I've ridden on the sidewalk, and when I do that, it's because I've ended up in a place where the road just looks too dangerous, like it's really fast traffic, it's a highway, or a lot of times on a lot of our streets, the middle of the road might be nice and smooth, but near the curb, it's full of potholes, and that's where all the construction happens when lines are dug up, gas lines and electric lines, and then it's just patched over. And on a scooter, it's really, some of those rough patches are really kind of hard to navigate. So if we had, or there's a bike lane, but the bike lane's blocked by cars, and I'd rather go on the sidewalk than go into the road with the traffic when I'm on an e-scooter. So I think if people are on the sidewalk, it's because there's problems with the road. And also, if we see a corral that really seems to be in a bad, inconvenient place, we should talk to DOT about that.
Yes, at the end of the day, DOT, to answer both of those, DOT controls that. Like it's A, that, or B, Con Edison, for example, and the gas thing. It's not us, it's whoever controls the road, and the realm of the public space is DOT. So if there's like a very potholed street, DOT is in charge of that, even if it is in the middle of the bike lane. The NYPD has been working with us and with the DOT to try to get, I forget the name of again, another clause, but it's when a parked car blocks the bike lane, you will not get a ticket per se for going on the sidewalk for your safety, because it's unsafe to think you going on the sidewalk just to avoid a car, and better to do that than to get in the other way in the field of traffic going 30, 40 miles an hour. So that you're allowed to do, but clearly you're not allowed to ride on the sidewalk. You should get off, walk, and then get back on once it's safe to do so.
But now, like Diana was saying, sometimes the streets just are too dangerous,
Right.
too holy, everything going on. Is there a way that you can slow them down if they are on the sidewalk?
Oh, yes. Oh, on the sidewalk, we have it also geofenced where they shouldn't even be riding on the sidewalk. So that's the issue. It's they're physically going on the sidewalk close enough to the street that it looks like they're on the street.
Okay.
For that reason. But back to the geofencing, yes. So around certain hospitals, for example, or around like certain schools or certain houses of worship, we slow it down, or we say the no ride zone. So like the geofence, for example, like the Bronx River, we geofence that entirely out, and then by the park, the geofence go back in, but it's a slow zone because that's where the money is. We don't want people to, not be able to ride from the train, but we also want it to be slow because there's people getting out of the train for that reason. So we're able to control that part, but the street itself, we complain to the DOT all the time too.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, Phyllis, I'd just like to clarify, please, because most of the people riding on the sidewalk are riding it because they prefer riding on the sidewalk than on the road. And again, that's not fair. I find the sidewalk is much more dangerous to ride on because it's not meant for wheels. It's not paved to be driven on. Anyone will agree with me that has any common sense that sidewalk is not paved. It's paved for walking. It's not paved to be ridden on. Not like the roads are paved for wheels to drive through, whether it's a two-wheel or four-wheel vehicles. So constantly to say that people are riding because there's something wrong with the roads, or that's maybe half of 1%, but the majority of people are riding on the sidewalk is because they don't have driver's license. They don't want to endanger their safety, but they have no problem endangering other people's safety. And that now that we mentioned it, we have 16-year-old driving and having it on the video. When I asked him how old he is, he said he was 16 years old. I cannot share that video because he's an underage resident. But constantly I have witnesses such abuses, and all you take is DOT or what the company stand there for 1 hour in Palm Parkway and see everything I see. But see no evil, hear no evil. It's until someone unfortunately gets harmed, maybe then they'll address this issue. Thank you so much.
No worries, Roxanne, I completely agree with you. I sometimes I want to avoid where I live in Queens. I live on Northern Boulevard, and that used to be the pull-in for Queens Boulevard, also known as the Boulevard of Death. I refuse to ride on there. But then, last year they built a bike lane. So it's just more of an issue of, will the DOT build a bike lane on the street? No, because that will cause more issues with people. They don't want their parking taken away. So that's where we are. I also feel unsafe riding on Queens Boulevard until they built a bike lane. And now I ride on Queens Boulevard. But until I did, I used to ride on the side streets. So completely agree with you. If you feel unsafe, I can understand why you want to get on the sidewalk. It goes to what Diana was saying earlier. If you see a car blocking the bike lane, I'm going to be safe for myself as well. Legally, I shouldn't be riding the sidewalk. Most people don't listen to that, unfortunately. But at the same time, if it's an issue of the infrastructure, there should be bike lanes and there should be cars going the way they should be going, and there should be sidewalks. Until we get to that society, I don't know.
No, but I'm saying that they're putting their safety over other safeties. And the fact is that there's nothing wrong with the roads. They could ride on the roads. It's just that they're afraid of the cars. But they rather put the rest of us who did not have a choice in the matter in danger. And that's the point. It's not that there's no roads available. There's plenty of roads in Palm Parkway. They could ride on those roads, but they choose not to because they feel safer on the sidewalk because they don't want to ride alongside the cars. And that's not fair for people like myself. That's it. Thank you.
I completely agree.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hello, my name is Eileen, and the person speaking, I'm sorry, I didn't know the name, but what is the phone number? You said you would give the phone number of customers, if you have any question or anything. That's for one thing. Could I have, we have the phone number?
Let me just figure out what the video is. It is 855-836-2256. 855-836-2256. If you forget the middle three, it's VEO, VEO.
That's to the VO, and that's if you have any concerns or if you see something that is improper. Is that for that?
Yes.
Yes. You can also file a 311 report, Eileen.
You can do both.
Excuse me?
You can also file a report with 311.
A report. That's
Yes.
if you see someone that doesn't follow street lights, goes through the lights.
Right.
Something like. And sometimes I see two on a scooter, and I do see them going on the through the parkway where the concrete is by the benches, where the kids are, and I don't think they're supposed to be there.
So again, file 311, or you can call that number. Either one gets it to us, so we find out immediately. FL, to answer your question, K, very disrespectful to me. What the hell, man? FL, Yes, and the answer is really, it's more about the business impact. So actually, property values skyrocket when there's a rideshare and increased modes of transportation to also any kind of economic development in the area. So for example, the Flushing bus lane that happened last year, 400% of business increase as business, oh my God, excuse me, business sales have increased 400% since the bus lane has implemented. So oftentimes it's because people ride from the train to a different area and they purchase things. So my example with the Bronx Zoo, you had people who would end up not even wanting to go to the Bronx because it was, quote, too far. I've heard this about Queens. I get it. I hate that. People would not want to ride to the Bronx. They ended up seeing that there's a rideshare to go from the train to the Bronx, and then they were able to go into the corral and they were able to spend money at the Bronx Zoo, then go across the street and spend more money getting food. So when it comes down to when it comes down to rideshare, or when it comes down to like increasing modes of transportation for other people, then it gets a lot more of economic development in the area. It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Now, I just want to reiterate, I emailed and called all 3 scooter companies. Lime never got back to me. I called them, they told me to email. I emailed them, they told me to send it to another email. Never heard from them. Bird was supposed to be here. I spoke to him on Friday, and he had assured me that he would be here in person and have someone online, but they never showed. So I really want to thank Vio for coming out and taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you, Phyllis, and thank you, everyone. And again, at the end of the day, like I love saying this. I'm sure everyone here loves saying this. I'm born and raised in Queens and New York. Like, I want you to know, like, I have the same opinions as everyone else does, and for that reason, like, I want this to be nice, right? I don't want someone from who knows where saying something like this. I want this to be, a face to the company, but also if you want to complain, I'm all ears. That's it.
Thank you.
But in a respectful way, they
In a
should do
respectful
it.
way.
I just have to say that and put it on record.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else before we end it? Oh, nope, sorry, we're not ending it. We did gallery session. Anyone have anything different for the gallery session? Roxanne?
Yeah, with the and I thank Vio for being here. Thank you for being here. But please provide email contact if you can. It'd be appreciated. And regarding public safety issue, no, I'll address it at tomorrow's 49 precinct. And thank you so much for holding this meeting.
Thank you, Roxanne. Anybody else have any issues to bring up in the gallery session? Diana?
Yes, I'll talk about this tomorrow too, but it seems like we need lighting. There's some lights that are out on Pelham Parkway and White Plains Road near the bus stops. And now that it's getting dark so early, there's one set of lights that just seem out of order. And then along White Plains Road, by the subway station, the lights that are on the subway focus up, not down. So it leaves all the bus stop areas, the 39 both ways, the local 12 westbound, particularly in really dark areas. And a lot of people are asking about that.
Okay, I'll look into it. I'm not sure who exactly does that, but I'll
Yeah, I'm
contact
not
her
sure either.
tomorrow.
Because, right, some people say that some of the lights are MTA, the ones
Right.
near the subway, some of them are DOT. Yeah.
I'll ask Jeremy tomorrow. I'll find out, and we'll find out about that. And
Okay,
yes,
thank
please
you.
bring it up tomorrow night at the precinct meeting. Any other questions or issues to bring up?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, make sure that's something the community wants, because have not heard those complaints regarding, and when you get more lighting, you get more loitering. That's the problem. So I'll check it out and see. But that's a DOT issue anyhow, and that's under the reconstruction.
I just wanted to add something not related to what we've been discussing, but on Thanksgiving Day, there was a fire on Morris Park and Victor Street.
Victor.
The families there are okay, but I did want to just put it out there and say thank you to Phyllis and Al D'Angelo that went and brought food to the tenants over there. Just wanted to say that there's also, I noticed that there's quite a few fires that have happened in our area in a short amount of time. So if we could just, I don't know, maybe one day have a conversation about fire safety.
Yeah, fire department.
And have the fire department in here. That would be great, just to share some information with the community on what they can do to prevent a fire and what to do in the event of a fire. Because I've been in contact with the family. They only had hotel stay until Monday, today. Then they had to rent an Airbnb somewhere, or like a hotel room in Connecticut 2 hours away, because everything in New York City was so expensive for the holiday season.
Yeah.
So another conversation might be, where do people stay when it comes to family shelters or victims of domestic abuse? I know that shelters in this community are a very contested issue. I'm not talking about a men's shelter.
Shelters.
Talking about a family shelter.
Shelters are not contested.
Right. Okay. So, I think that
And they're much needed.
we need to make some real noise about family shelters here, because it's just too many fires in such a short amount of time. And it's really heartbreaking to hear what this family is going through. And thank goodness, Serena Muniz has also been giving me guidance. Bernadette has also given guidance, and Malcolm also, to go ahead and help this family, get somewhere to stay where they don't have to pay, $1,500 a week out of their savings in this holiday season. So definitely, the Red Cross, only for a few days. But we should definitely have a conversation, about A, fire safety, and B, a family shelter in this area.
Absolutely. There was a big fire last year down in the same area. And I got in touch with, I actually became very good friends with the person because I was helping them. They were placed in North. And the child went to school here at Van Ness Academy. So it was and they're still, she texted me Thanksgiving Day. They're still not back in their home. They're still out in New Rochelle, which is a hassle. So yes, it is a big issue. I don't know if those hands are new hands or.
The new one is Judy, because
Judy?
the other two.
Oh,
didn't
sorry.
bring it.
I was gonna put a link because the FDNY is giving smoke detectors, and you have to fill out a form. I was gonna share that in the chat. I don't know.
The chat, sure, that would be perfect. Thank you. And yes, and the smoke detectors are free, and they come and install them for you.
How do you get them?
Call 311.
Call 311 and ask them, and they should be able to direct you. Judy is going to put it in the chat, but I don't think you could see the chat on your phone.
I'll email
No,
her.
I
She's my neighbor.
can't.
I'll email you the link.
Roxanne will let you know. Thank you, Judy.
Okay.
Any other new business, old business?
If you don't mind, my name is Eileen. There's some kind of pothole. Is this the platform I could mention quickly? When I crossed Key Food on Lydig Avenue, and I came up upon the sidewalk, there was a hole by where the gutter is and the sidewalk on the corner.
Lighting and?
Well, it's as you cross to go to White Plains, towards White Plains Road, that direction, crossing from Key Food to Joe's Pizzeria. That particular, there was a hole in the corner sidewalk.
Okay, do you know if anyone filed a 311 report against that?
I felt the pothole or hole, and I didn't do it yet, but there is.
It's on Holland Avenue, and I'll do a 311 tomorrow morning, okay? Because I also have to take a picture.
Oh,
and
thank
I'll do
you.
it tomorrow morning,
Yeah,
okay?
Roxanne,
I
if you
promise.
send it to me, I'll file one also.
Okay, I'll send it to you, and I'll do it tomorrow afternoon, okay?
Did you notice it, Roxanne? I mentioned. Did you actually?
I did see it, but my phone was dead, so I couldn't take a picture. So I'll take a picture tomorrow
you
morning.
did see it. Okay.
I'll do it for you. I promise. I keep my word.
You confirmed it.
Bye.
You confirmed it.
Does anybody else have anything to share with us? Any concerns? New business, old business? So then we are going to call this meeting at an end. It is 8:30. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just one last thing. The city budget cut is affecting compost and delaying the Bronx from receiving service instead of March is looking like October. So I'm not sure how many people are aware about how that's affecting the budget cuts are affecting the parks and especially the composting launch in the Bronx.
Yeah, the budget cuts are unfortunately affecting everything. Education, policing, parks, libraries. Yeah. It's a sad situation right now.
I can't wait for the snow. Let's see that.
Yeah. But thank you, everybody, for coming. It is 8:36 and we are done. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.